what does your team have to look like at the end to make it worthwhile? Like if I pass on Rory in the second, let's say, because he's going at pick 12, if I pass on Tommy and Rory, then I feel like I need to get Fitz somewhere. Like I'll have to jump on Fitz and Bobby Mack earlier than I want, potentially, because I need that level of player. And I'm going to move Robert McIntyre, as I mentioned, up anyway. But that level of player, like I need those signature event guys. I need the Scottish Open guys. I need the Canadian Open guys. And they all kind of fit that same bucket.
The Mayo Experience.
Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, presented by Underdog. We're redoing the rankings for PGA Best Ball draft contest in the Scramble. We'll talk about a few more rules, some updates, and we're not like completely adjusting the rankings. There is some news that we need to get to that will bump a few guys up, a few guys down, but really try to develop a blueprint of how to properly use the rankings, because I started to put my rankings into practice and I tried to like upload a CV or CSV, and all of a sudden it's like, well, I don't like any of these teams. This isn't good. This isn't how I wanted to draft. So I got Alex Blickle from FTN.com on the line with me right now to try to talk this through and figure out what I want to do with my rankings. Alex, you mentioned to me before the show that your rankings look a lot like my rankings, which is, listen, I like to be on the page with smart people. The issue has become is I have the rankings in the order that I want them. The problem is you need to be able to adjust your teams to fill out the different categories that you need. You can't just take, like, for example, we'll just click on my rankings for a second here. And we got, let's see. For example, I have like Nick Taylor, Taylor Pendrith, Brian Harmon. This is probably the one right here. Like Nico and Chris Kirk, I have above like Tommy, Rory, and those guys. We're going to see Bobby Mack take a huge swing up here in a second because he committed to the Amex. But I don't want to have like those three guys as my second, third, and fourth round pick and not get some of the studs. So I need to figure out a way to balance that properly. But you understand what I mean when I say that, like, I like those guys more because I think you need like one of those guys before the other guys. And in the rankings, I need to have them up there in case someone takes Chris Kirk and then you get to grab the other guy. But how much do you think that understanding average draft position comes into this?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I think like the heart of this problem is that, especially if you want to be able to just upload a CSV and have it auto draft, it can't make the conscious decisions that you can make if you're like actually sitting there on the couch doing the draft yourself. And so if you're doing the draft, you can very clearly look at it and say, okay, I know that, Chris Kirk is going to be there the next round, but Schauffele's not, or whoever it is, right? And then you can just make the decision accordingly, whereas the rankings can't just automatically do that for you. So you either have to do every single draft yourself and make those decisions as you go, whether it's Tommy, whomever, or you have to figure out a way to change the rankings so that you're factoring in draft position in the actual rank, so that the auto draft is going to take the guy that you want it to take. And that's a much harder thing to do.
So you see, like Chris Kirk is number 48 on the sheet. Now, the reason that I have him so highly, I discussed this with Sky, and the more I thought about it, the more maybe I'll get your ideas on how to actually come up with a proper draft strategy. But I think that Kirk is he's in the first two signature events, which is great, but he needs to play his way back into them because he's not automatic. I believe he's one of the guys who's not automatically into. I think he was like 54th. So he was a part of the next 10. He gets himself in for Pebble and Genesis. However, he is very likely to play Sony, Amex, and Cognizant. And Cognizant, I found out in round one, is actually good because we don't know what the field is going to be like for Sony. We have some ideas. I'm talking to Michael Kim this week. Maybe he can let me know who's joined and who hasn't. However, it comes down to one of these things where if you can have 6 guys who play Cognizant, you're probably going to escape the first round.
Yeah, I would think so. And especially if we continue to see them kind of dumb down the golf course and make it a birdie fest, which none of us as fans want to see, right? Like we all want to see the carnage that we used to get at PGA National, not the course records that we saw last year. But if we're going to get the course records on all the birdies, and that's a scoring event and not just an event that it's hard to get guys into that field, then that becomes a really, really valuable one if you can have everyone play.
So Kirk is one player. So he's going ADP 42 right now. Jake Knapp is already committed to it, and he's someone who needs to play his way into the signature events. The issue becomes when we start going through this, and someone pointed this out to me, and I completely agree, is that my rankings do not help you win in the very end. My rankings will help you get there, and then you probably get blown out in section 4 because you don't have enough good players. And that, like, round 4 of the underdog contest, you're going to need all the good players. So what's the best way, do you think, to go about this? Because we can take a look at the ADPs. Like, you're going to take Scotty number 1. Who do you have as number 2? Because I have Xander at number 2, because I think that he's going to play Amex. I think that he'll probably play Farmers as well. He'll play Farmers or Phoenix, I think. And then you'll get Xander for the entire year. And I just think part of this is, I think that you need to kind of bet on some players as well for a bounce back. And I think that he's in line for a big bounce back year.
Yeah, I don't have any issue with Xander. I think that's a good call. I think it's between Xander, Burns, Cam Young, and Straka for number 2 for me. And honestly, like, I don't have a strong sense of one over the other. Look at that. Burns, Straka, and Cam.
I actually bumped down Xander, but now I think I'm going to bump him back. You know what? An 8 actually sounds right, just in case he doesn't play those 2 events, where I know the rest of these guys probably will. Like, Straka and Burns are up there so much. Like, I know Burns is playing Amex. I know Straka is playing Amex. And Straka, out of all these guys, is probably the most likely to play Cognizant.
Yeah, so I think, like, a big theme for me is we're always kind of looking at, okay, well, what worked last year? And one of the things that worked last year so well was taking guys like Ben Griffin, guys that you know are going to play a ton, guys who have a chance to play their way into the signature events. But it's also worth remembering that, like, Ben Griffin had a career year that nobody would, like, even people who were Ben Griffin stans, if those guys existed before the last season, I don't think they saw him becoming the player that he became last year. Like, they might have said, oh, I think he's going to, make a lot of cuts, and maybe he'll get status or exemptions into all the signature events. But I don't think they thought he was going to win multiple times and, consistently finish in the top 10, things of that nature. And so I do think we might be a little bit overreactionary this year, at least the field as a whole will, in just taking these guys who are going to play a ton. But we do need to remember that guys have to also play well. And so I think that's why, like, Straka, Cam Young, especially to me, and why Xander is so appealing, because if someone's going to be a clear-cut number 2 in the world behind Scotty, obviously Rory's most likely, but we know Rory's not going to play much early on. Xander's that guy who could play a bunch of tournaments and could end up being, almost at the Scotty tier, where you are getting, like, significantly better play every time he tees it up than you're going to get from somebody else.
So the Rory thing is interesting because he'll play Canada and he'll play Scotland. And this is huge for the end of the year, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you get through with a Rory team, you are in a great position. And I actually ended up taking him a lot last year. And my only teams that were live late were Rory teams that barely got through early on. And I had some other teams that, easily made it through and then kind of fizzled out through the year. If you can get through with Rory, you're in a great position. But obviously it's a lot harder to advance if you do have him.
So Robert McIntyre right now is going at pick number 20. So we just got confirmation that Robert McIntyre is going to play in the American Express, which means he might actually play Sony as well, because he's giving up. That's Amex goes head to head with the Rolex Series event over in Dubai. And obviously the first week is the first Dubai tournament, where a lot of guys who go over for one will end up playing both, but that is the same week as the Sony. So if he's not going to play in the second one, chances are he's not going to play in the first one, which means he might go to Hawaii.
Yeah, it's definitely possible. It's so hard to predict schedules in this way, right? And especially it's hard to predict schedules for this many players. Like, if your only task was figure out what events Robert McIntyre is going to play, I think you could do that pretty well. But doing that for every single player is so tough. So that hasn't been my focus. My focus has been more just kind of like a wider view of, okay, what does a winning team look like? How do I balance, the odds of getting through early on with how to get there late? And in that regard, like, to your point here, is we at least have a better chance of predicting the events guys are going to play early than predicting what their June or July is going to look like.
Well, McIntyre right now, where did I have him in my rankings? I had him pretty low comparatively. I have him at number 30. I need to adjust that ranking now. He's going to play Amex, which means he'll probably play one of the other non-signature events in America. So we get 2 from him there. Then we get the 2 signature events. We get 4 events from him in round 1 out of the 7. That's pretty good, knowing that he too is going to play Canada. He too is going to play in Scotland. So he is a great play for the end of the year as well. If we're looking through that, it's sort of like, Pendrith is going to have to play in these events to get himself in, hence why he's being drafted so highly. I thought it was strange, though, looking at the ADP. Like, I have Nick Taylor at 13 and I have Taylor Pendrith at 14. But when you take a look at the ADP, Pendrith is going at pick number 19, and you have to go down like almost pick 26. Nick Taylor's objectively, I think, a better pick than Taylor Pendrith. He's in every signature event. He's in the majors. He's going to play these goober tournaments, and he's going to play Canada and Scotland at the end of the year.
Yeah, I agree. Taylor was actually like a top 10 pick for me last year. And I think he ended up being my highest owned player, even though I could take him like in the last round. So it was definitely a guy that I was high on last year. And I think I'm going to be high on him this year. But obviously this year, the field is a little bit more in tune with what a good pick he is. So I definitely agree with you there, though. And I think the guy that your mouse was just on is somebody that I'm taking a lot of. And I think you have him at 23. It was Michael Brennan.
Yeah, Michael Brennan, I mean, we've seen since I've released, a few people have mentioned this to me. Since I put out my rankings, a lot of guys moved up and down.
Yeah.
Because there's so few people actually putting out rankings that if there's 3 people in the world putting out rankings for this, that it's going to severely impact ADP. But Brennan, I don't think is still going high enough here. Like the issue with Brennan is, do we actually know if he's any good?
So I think that we do. I think that number one, like, he was a full tier above everyone else on the Americas tour last year. And the really like encouraging sign there is, number one, what is it that we're trying to accomplish with this contest and this scoring system? A lot of it is make birdies. So maybe he ends up getting beat up by difficult courses, but we already know from his time on the Americas tour, when it takes 20 under to contend every week, that he can make a ton of birdies. And then what we actually saw from him on the PGA Tour is, we're talking about one of the best drivers of the golf ball in the world already. He hits the ball a mile. Ball speed is fantastic. He can shape it in whatever way he needs. And he's just super accurate, especially for his distance. So I think he already has the skill set of someone who can be a mainstay on tour, but also like there's so much room for improvement there too, because the one skill set that is the most stable year to year is already his biggest strength. So now you're just asking for improvements in some of these, more volatile categories like putting. And that's the exact, archetype of, potential breakout player that we're looking for.
Yeah, even against a great field at the U.S. Open 2 years ago, he was gaining off the tee. So you assume now at 23, he's better in that regard. And as you kind of mentioned as well, that like if that's a very stable type of stat for Michael Brennan, and he's gonna have, despite having his tour card, he's gonna have to play these, like the CJ Cup. He's gonna have to play in those.
Yeah, absolutely. And not only is it like he quote unquote has to, but it's his first time on the PGA Tour. He wants to, right? Like, this is a guy who's used to traveling through the Latin America, through all of Mexico, and then all the way up to Canada and all around Canada. The travel's not going to bother him. He's just going to want to play as much golf as he can at this level. And so, yeah, I think he's a fantastic draft pick. Maybe even like a full round earlier than he's going.
So someone like Max McGreevy is going right in that same range. He's going at number 39. That's a spot behind Harmon, a spot ahead of Hovland. Now, McGreevy strikes me as a player you don't want to draft. I understand the reasons why. He's in the Aon Next 10. He's in both the signature events. He's going to have to play a ton. And if he was going 6 rounds later, I would agree. I'm not drafting him over real players is the problem, because I don't think he's that good.
Yes, he's like the perfect example of the guy that I think might be overdrafted this year because of the success of the Ben Griffin type last year, where at least he played really well in the fall. But prior to that, like we know who this guy is. He has to have his A game on the greens, because he's not a great ball striker. He's especially not a great iron player. He did show like he can be streaky in that way at least, but he's not on the same level of other guys who are being drafted in this area. And like we said, it doesn't matter how often you're playing if you're missing too many cuts. In order to actually take advantage of the fact that you're getting starts in these easier events, you have to make the cut and end up high in the leaderboard. Otherwise, you're not making those birdies to begin with. So I'm with you that I think he's being overdrafted.
For example, someone like Knapp and Horschel, who are going 15 to 20 picks later, I think are better options despite not being in the signature events, because Knapp is the only official commitment to Cognizant. So that's good news. And he's going to have to play his way back in, but he'll play Torrey Pines, places where he has success. And if he doesn't play himself in, he's a good guy to have in those other competitions, because Sky pointed this out, Byron pointed this out. I'm sure that you and I are on the same wavelength with this, is that if you're going to take like the crappy guys, like it comes down to, if you take Max McGreevy and he gets those 2 starts in the signature events, you're not drafting him for the signature events. Like, those are extra stuff. He has a good round. That's fantastic. That's a nice bonus. You're drafting him for those other events, and he gets extra starts in other places, but you know that he's going to play everywhere else. But when Max McGreevy shows up to the American Express, he's going to be 150 to 1 to win. Jake Knapp is going to be like 40 to 1 to win. Like, he's just a better player.
Yeah, it's a great point, and it's even more important this year than it was last year, because now we're actually getting finish position bonus points. So really good call there. And then you also mentioned Horschel, and I think an important point with Horschel is, even though he's not qualified, there's a good chance he's going to get some sponsor exemptions into those signature events. So you might end up getting a bonus with a bonus or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 with him that way.
Yeah, and you know that he's even when he was qualified for everything, he played the Sony. Now, yes. I don't know if that's because he played Kapalua and then Sony, but he's committed to Amex. He always plays Cognizant. Like, you could get Sony, Amex, Cognizant, one of Phoenix and Farmers, and probably 1, maybe 2 sponsors exemptions into the signature events.
And he's coming off of an injury, so it makes sense for him to want to play a lot early to try and knock the rust off and refine his game before, the signature events and major championships start to come around.
Let's talk Brooks. What's going on here?
I have no idea. It's one of the more fascinating conversations in golf right now. And I think that, like, I've heard so many different viewpoints, and it's one of the rare conversations where every single viewpoint I've heard has merit to it. Like, everything from this guy shouldn't be allowed back ever to this guy should be allowed back immediately. Every single thing that I've heard, I can at least relate to and say, okay, yeah, there's some merit to that argument.
So I thought he was still under contract to LIV. Like, I don't think his LIV deal is up. I think he's just taking the year off. If that's the case, then he's not going to be playing.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I think the chance that he plays this year on the PGA Tour are extremely low no matter what, but that would seem to guarantee it. I don't know what the specifics are on whether he's still under contract or not, but I think that just I wouldn't be opposed to something where he's allowed to play as soon as possible, just because there's an element of Brooks is such a leader in the golf space. And also it was clear, at least a couple of years ago, that he has never been all in on LIV, and to the point where he's trying to convince us that it means more than it does. He's been one of the more honest guys to yeah, look, these tournaments don't mean much. I'm finishing top 10, but it doesn't, it's not anything, any kind of accomplishment. So the fact that he's never pushed LIV in that way, and the fact that I think he had more justification for going to LIV in the first place anyway, because when he made that decision, he didn't know if he was ever going to be a good golfer again, because he was coming off that severe injury. So I think, at least on a personal level, for both me and I imagine for the PGA Tour players who didn't go to LIV, who really could have, I think they probably have more forgiveness for Brooks than a lot of the other guys, let's say Cam Smith or John Rahm.
The issue is, if you let him back with no penalty, then everyone can come back. Maybe that's what they want. They want to make the door easy, but then that's going to piss off everyone who didn't go. So you can't do that, I think, at least, because you don't want to alienate your membership. But if you made the penalty of coming back some sort of outrageous fine, which he can probably afford, because he got paid so much money, or you even figure out a way to grease it. Oh yeah, show up to this first tee thing, you get paid $40 million. Oh, there's a $40 million fine for you to come back. And that's the public thing. Oh, Brooks had to pay $40 million out of his own pocket to come back and play. Then the lower end guys who want to come back remain banned. So you kind of keep a clamp down on them, like, oh, you can't just go to LIV and come back, or you need to forfeit 40 million bucks or 50 million bucks or something like that, where like the Hudson Swaffords of the world are just kind of screwed at that point. Or I like my idea of just making him play on the DP World Tour. Like, that's where he has to play this year, and that is the path to coming back. Like, you need to go regain your tour card. Although he technically doesn't have to do that because he would have full status, I think, being, a 5-time major champion, having won one in the past 2 years, everything like that. Like, the path for him to come back would be so easy. But I do agree that getting him back in the signature events as quickly as possible is the best thing for the PGA Tour. It's a really difficult, like, do you just let him join TGL?
Yeah, maybe that's the answer. So there are a couple of things here. I think the first is like the conversation about status is actually a really important one, because it does mean that even if you let him back, it's not like everyone who left can come back. Because like Taylor Gooch, for example, would have no status whatsoever on the PGA Tour, right? So it's like you couldn't just get this mass exodus back to the PGA Tour. I think it would only be guys that you actually want to return who could return immediately. But to that point, I think Tim brought up like an idea that you could say anyone who chooses to come back in the next 6 months or so is forgiven. If you don't come back in the next 6 months, then you're never allowed back or something like that. And so I think you could use an idea like that to target Brooks, making the rule like only for Brooks, even though you can't say it only works for Brooks. Like, so for example, let's say it's the week before the Masters and you say you have to decide before the Masters that you're leaving LIV and coming back right now. No one who's currently on LIV would be able to make that happen in less than a week. Brooks could. So I think like maybe you could use an unofficially Brooks only rule like that to maybe let just Brooks come back.
The issue would be that if you did put something like that in place, because the real get for them would be to get Bryson back. And you need to keep every avenue open for Bryson to be able to return. Rahm as well, I suppose.
Yeah, and I think Cam Smith too. Maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm a unique.
Listen, I like Cam Smith as much as the next guy. I'd love to see him back. I don't think the PGA is sweating if Cam Smith comes back or not.
That's fair. I think it's probably more for me just because like when I watch Cam Smith, like he is as much of a golf artist as exists in the world today, especially on and around the greens. Like I could watch him putt on a practice green for an hour and I'd be sad. Like I'd have fun doing that for an hour straight. I know that makes me very unique. But yeah, to me, I would love to see Cam Smith back, but I think you're right that he's not anywhere near the same tier as Rahm, Bryson, and Brooks in terms of just like mass interest.
As it pertains to these drafts, we're probably not going to know what's going to be the decision with Brooks or what he's going to do before Sony when these drafts close. Can you draft him? Like, would you draft him?
No, because even if I think like even if he eventually ends up back on the PGA Tour, he probably doesn't start immediately. Like I think there, of course, like any player who made the decision that Brooks just made would say something like, "I'm doing this for my family." But I also think that like there's probably some truth to that. We never know what someone's going through, but it does seem like, and he had a really rough year last year, so. I can't imagine that even if the PGA Tour announced tomorrow that he's allowed back, that he would start the season right away. I think he'd probably wait until the signature events came around or even the majors to really get going again.
All right, people, it's that time of year again. The Mayo Cup is officially open. That's right, your yearly reminder that you could win life-changing money if you stop making coward picks and actually commit to greatness. Let's talk stakes, because the Mayo Cup, not messing around. $110,000 to first place. $110,000 actual real dollars. And with your $250 entry, you're playing for a prize pool of $1.2 million. That's 7 figures of pure, delicious fantasy golf sweat. And this season, the Mayo Cup is fully available in the Fanball app. Week-to-week picks, leaderboard sweats, berating yourself for fading the guy who wins by 6. You can do it all right from your phone. So head to the Fanball app, search for the Mayo Cup, and get yourself entered. $1.2 million in prizes. $110,000 to the winner. Just $250 to play. This is the year, unless you blow it again. But hey, you might not. Sign up now. The contest tees off January 15th. I gotta tell you about pre-alcohol, my secret weapon before a night out. I used to choose a great night or a great next day. Now, I get both with ZBiotics. It's the world's first genetically engineered probiotic made by PhD scientists to fight rough mornings. Alcohol creates a toxic byproduct in your gut, not dehydration, that ruins the next day. Pre-alcohol makes an enzyme to break it down. Drink it first, drink it responsibly, and wake up still feeling fresh. I was skeptical, but the first time that I tried it, rooftop, with my pals, drank it before my first cocktail, next morning, felt amazing, ready to crush the day. Go to zbiotics.com/PatMayo to learn more and get 15% off your first order when you use Pat Mayo at checkout. ZBiotic is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee, so if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Remember, head to zbiotics.com/PatMayo and use the code PatMayo at checkout for 15% off. The holidays are here, the season of giving, and at Underdog, they're going big. They even hooked me up with Thunderbirds tickets. It was great. It's like Underdog knows me better than I know myself. But here's the crazy part. They know you guys just as well. From now through the 31st, Underdog is dropping exactly what you want. Daily promos every single day. College football, pro football, basketball, fight sports, you name it. Promos every day for you to enjoy. So check your app every day. It's Underdog Unwrapped, and it's going to be our best one ever. I wanted to let everyone know the race for the Mayo Cup is open right now. 1.2 million in the prize pool, 110,000 to first, $250 per entry. FantasyGolfChampionships.com. You can hit the link down in the description. But Alex, guess what? I'm giving away a free entry. Anyone who joins now before January 1st and then sends me a screenshot, be it on X, IG, email mayomediainc@gmail.com. Just a screenshot of your entry and you being in the pool, you'll get into a draw for another free entry that I'll be giving away on New Year's Day. Doesn't make sense not to do it, does it?
It really doesn't, especially now that the buy-in's $250. That's $253 just for taking a screenshot and sending it to you. So absolutely, that's a great deal.
People are going to join it anyway. You might as well join it now. And then I can be like, hey, look, it's filling pretty quickly. And then more people will sign up. And if we get people, like if we can fill this thing like 3 days before the beginning of the Sony Open, like we might get up to like $2 million next year if it's going to be that popular.
Absolutely. And it should be that popular because it's an awesome contest. It's so much fun. Like it's reminiscent of Survivor and NFL in a lot of ways, but I think it's even better because in Survivor, as soon as you lose, you're done. But you can't be eliminated from the one and done contest early on. So you get like an entire season's worth of entertainment and a sweat. And then like you made the point, you make the point all the time, like the flat payout means that you're live all season. Even if you can't get first place, you can still make a good amount of money late in the year with a really good finishing stretch.
If you can hit like 4 winners over the final like 10 weeks of the season, even if you've missed every other pick going up to it, you could still come inside the top 20, and 20th place is $10,000.
Yeah, I think what was it like 50th place is still. It might even be more than that. It might be like 200th place is still 1,000 or something like that. So
yeah, I think, you know what? Let me go to fantasygolfchampionships.com right now and figure this out. Let's see here. Race for the Mayo Cup. Oh, it's already 20% full. That's huge for,
awesome. Yeah.
We usually have like 100 people in until like the new year. Let's see. Top 50. Yeah. Everyone inside the top 75 wins $2,000. Everyone inside the top 200 wins at least 1,000.
That's awesome. I mean, that's so much better than like any DFS tournament payout structure that we're going to see.
Yeah, so I can put that up here if people want to see what the payouts are going to be. Yeah, first 110,000, 75, 55, 45, 35, 30, 25, 20, 18, 16, 14, 12. Like, yeah, there obviously is an emphasis to do well, but even like when you start going down at the very bottom, like it's a $250 buy-in, which is what, $7 a week, something like that. Mm-hmm. For the season. So if you come top 750, you still win double your money. Then you just get 2 entries for next year. Like I ended up coming, what the hell did I come last year? I think 101st. So I won $1,000 and I had my other entry min cashed and I got 500. So I just added more entries this year. Why not? And I'll probably play in the $1,000 one as well. You can get to that. That's up on the screen. 14 to 49. That $1,000 one's going to fill very quickly. It's 15,000 to first place. That one, it's funny how much the strategy differs.
Yes.
From that to, I mean, it's no different than like when we go to the Underdog lobby and take a look at the scramble, like the scramble is going to be the huge contest. That's what we're talking about on Underdog, but the Pat Mayo Open is there as well. I mean, that's almost full. I haven't even drafted a team in it yet, and it's almost full. But the difference in this, and like just how much little things happen, like it's $5,000 to first. I want to flat payouts for this too. So 5,000, 4,000, 3,000, 2,500. And let's see here, 2,000 for fifth. But the biggest thing is when you take a look at the qualifiers and how you actually get through, I believe it's two of the pods. It's two of 6, and then 2 of 10, and then 2 of 6. So it's top 2 every single week, not the top 1. Like in the scramble, it's 1 of 6 advance, 2 of 6 advance, which would really lead itself to more of the Rorys of the world, as long as you feel like you're pretty good. 60% filled. Jesus Christ, it's going fast. Good content.
And it's only you only have to beat 35 other people if you get to the final. Can you click on the scramble so we can get a nice comparison there?
Yeah. So you can see in the scramble, once it pops itself up here, you can see it's 1 of 6, 1 of 6, 1 of 6. Then you need to beat 260 people.
Yeah. Yeah. So a huge difference. Honestly, like I might even play more entries in the Pat Mayo Open than I do in the scramble, just for a higher likelihood of a fun sweat down there.
It is, but it's almost full is one thing. And I believe the PME is a 10 max and this is a 150 max.
Yep.
But yeah, you need, I mean, the second round of the PME Open is 2 of 10 go through. So you're re-situated with 9 other people. In the scramble, it'll just be you versus 5 other people all the way through to the final.
Yeah, the other thing there is like I wish that in the scramble it was 2 of 12 instead of 1 of 6, just because then it decreases pod luck a little bit when you have 2 get through and a bigger pod than 1 of 6, because you might just run into like a complete juggernaut in a 1 of 6 pod.
That's true, and that does suck if that ends up happening. But if you said you asked me if I had any rule changes, I hadn't really thought about it before we came on. But it sounds like you have. Like, what changes would you make to the scramble?
So I think the changes that they made this year were really, really good. The first thing being making it you draft 12 players instead of 10, so you're less likely to have events where you just don't have enough players. That in and of itself allows you to draft more really good players and fewer, bad players who are going to play a ton, especially early on in the season. The second thing that they did that was really helpful was giving us finishing position bonus points. So it's less about just who's playing the birdie fests. Now we actually get, points for having guys who do really well. But what I would change,
I do have a bit of pushback on that though, because
okay.
I've seen a lot of people talk about this, like it's this big significant difference. Yeah, that's great and everything. If you can get the winner on your team, you get a bonus of 20 points. But when you take a look at it, eagles are worth 8 and birdies are worth 3. So 6.5 birdies equals a win. 2 eagles and 2 birdies is more than a win. Like I'd still rather take my chances at the Amex versus the US Open.
100%. Yeah. I mean, there's no doubt about it. That's still true. But it just means that so Scotty, for example, if you look at just like total birdies made on tour last year, Scotty wasn't first. I think he was still somehow like 6th or 7th or something like that through the Open Championship, which is what matters here. But Scotty might have been the highest scorer if you gave him all of those finishing position bonus points last year. So I do think it matters. Just obviously, it doesn't matter so much that like our entire strategy needs to change. I think it's just like it's a step in the right direction. Which is why I still think that there's another change that we could make that would really kind of change the strategy. You already talked about how your rankings seem like they're maximizing your chance to get through the first round, but maybe they don't maximize your chance to win in the final. And I think your rankings are largely correct though, because we have so much control in these drafts over how likely are we to advance. We don't have a lot of control over if we advance, how do we do in the final? Where, think of NFL Best Ball. How many people are week 17 stacking because they're trying to get the maximum probability of winning if they get to the final.
But if they just had Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, who benefited from a late scratch on Christmas Day, they end up winning all the money.
Yeah, it's a total crapshoot once you get to week 17 of Best Ball for NFL. But so here's an interesting wrinkle that I would introduce. If if Underdog gave me creative control for some reason over the PGA Best Ball, instead of finishing at the Open Championship, I would finish at the Tour Championship.
Ooh.
So then every single draft, you have to really pay attention to, do I have enough guys who are playing early where I can advance, but also that are going to be playing in the Tour Championship and I have a chance to win? And the cool thing about this, the reason why I think it's good, is because what an awesome sweat it would be every single event down the stretch of the year of whether or not your guys are qualifying for the next round of FedEx Cup.
I would take that and say BMW Championship.
Fair, very fair, yeah.
So you get 50 guys instead of 30 guys. And I think the main thing that would do is put the emphasis back on trying to find, because really all we're doing right now is playing volume. Like, who are some good players who make birdies that are going to play a lot? That is the strategy. And if you go against that, you're going to lose. But in the thing that you've just talked about, especially with those 2 extra events at the end, it re-puts an emphasis back on not only finding guys who play a lot and score a lot to get yourself through, like you mentioned, you need to find guys that are actually good.
Yes. And so, like, Ben Griffin's a really good example from last year. Ben Griffin would have been a fantastic pick regardless of the format. But there are other guys who ended up being really good picks last year because they made a ton of birdies. Like Harry Hall led the tour by a lot in total birdies through the Open Championship. But if you had Harry Hall and you had to get to the actually, I don't even remember. He might have made it deep into the FedEx Cup playoffs. But I think you get what I'm saying. Like, there are guys who played a lot early, made a lot of birdies because they were playing in birdie fests, but didn't make the FedEx Cup playoffs, and they would have been useless in the championship rounds. Maybe they still would have been decent picks because they helped you get there. But it would add an element to strategy that I think currently the best ball contests are missing. And to your point, like, it would shift what we're trying to accomplish from who's playing a lot and making a ton of birdies early to who has a really good season, who has a better season this year than the field expects that to have. And to me, like, that's the more fun question to try and answer.
You spend a lot of time both projecting ownership on DFS slates and thinking about the strategy of everything. Even your underdog pick'em strategy for golf turned out to be really, really good over the past 2 years. So hopefully you can continue that forward over at FTN.com. We actually will have a simulator up on both Fantasy National and the Rabbit Hole at BetSportsGolf.com. And that's going to be a combo membership. I think that's going to start the week before Sony. They're just working out the kinks on both sites now that they've been redesigned and try to merge them into one. But one membership will get you both memberships at this point. So if you have a membership to one of them already, boom, you're going to have memberships to both of them before we can be able to create the super site. But this is one of the big things. I mean, you know that, like, one of the main reasons that I wanted to get Fantasy National back and get it to someone who could actually redesign it was I felt like it was falling behind. And now being able to merge the sites, but having the commitment from them to redo Fantasy National in the meantime to make sure that it works was just so big for me. And now we're going to have that. Some people complained over the swing season. I understand that, but it was the swing season. When you take a look at who's using the site during the swing season versus, regular golf, it's like 4% of people.
Yeah. And I'm sure that those same people won't be complaining when they see the new improved version.
Yeah. And listen, I completely understand, but this is what we needed to do in order to get it to work.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that sucked. But we're there now. At least the developers tell me we're there now. We'll see.
There you go.
But is the strategy, like, as I identified, because you're good at finding out this stuff and, like, really trying to dig into what is the proper method. And I think you kind of hit on this. It's just been my idea of just get out of the first round and figure out what's going on. Like you said, you can control the first round to the limits that you can. Like, we don't know what the field is for Sony yet, but we can make a pretty good guess. We can see some commitments, but beyond that, it gets a bit difficult to figure out. And then, like, if you had drafted Xander last year, he got hurt. What are you going to do then?
Yeah, so I think, like, to me, the key is just understanding that every lineup that you build is different, and this is why, like, I would actually caution against just setting ranks and letting it auto draft for you, because I think you need to have, like, the actual human element input of being able to look at your lineup. That, like, let's say you look at your first 4 draft picks and you say, okay, I've done a really good job with this start of improving my chances to get out of the first round. I now need to start drafting guys that are going to help me in round 2 or round 3, or especially in the final round to actually have a chance to win first place prize. And then other teams you're going to draft and you're going to end up on Rory, and you're going to say, okay, well, I've got Rory, so now I need to make some other picks to really help me get through the first round because I now have Rory, this like secret weapon to help me win down the stretch. So yeah, I think it's just like what I want to do. I haven't even started really drafting yet. Is I want to have basically like a note on every single player of where is this guy most helpful? Is he most helpful in this round or that round, or early or late, or this tournament or that tournament? Like you did a really nice job earlier talking about both Rory and McIntyre for the Canada Open and the Scottish Open. So if you can do that sort of thing and just have a really high awareness of where does every single player help you the most, that's when you can get the balance that you need to both have a good chance to advance, but then also have a real chance to win once you get there.
So looking at the final round, so if we start to try to reverse engineer this a little bit, and we take a look at the schedule, the first event of round 4, the final, the championship round, is the Canadian Open, which again puts a bigger emphasis on Nick Taylor, Taylor Pendrith, and Corey Connors as well, because we know that those guys are all going to play. Ryan Fox is probably going to come back to defend his championship. Sam Burns is an RBC guy. He is going to play. Cam Young, RBC guy. He is going to play. Then they're going to get the U.S. Open. If they're still inside the top 50 or already qualified, they're going to play at the Travelers. So that's huge. Then you have the off week with the John Deere Classic. So hopefully you can kind of amend it that, a lot of your goobers from earlier in the season can play that. Then you go Genesis and then the Open Championship. So you need to have those high-end guys. So maybe I do need to push Rory back up a little bit. And maybe I think there's a hinge event for each of these sections. So the Canadian Open is very clearly that for the final group. Or for the final round. I think the CJ Cup is round 3. I think that's the hinge one, where a lot of the South Korean players, Scotty, Spieth, the Texas guys, they tend to play in the Byron Nelson. I can't really figure out what it is for round 2 is the weird thing. It maybe because
where's round 2 start?
It's kind of like Valero, Houston, or Valspar. Like if you can find a high-end player who plays 2 of these 3 events, you're looking good.
Yeah, I think that's right. So yeah, it's almost like there isn't a hinge event. It's a hinge group of 3 where you need 2 of the 3.
So Minwoo is looking pretty good there. Harman tends to play Valero and Valspar. So that's pretty good. Like no one really played Valero despite being the week before the Masters. It seemed like Rory went to Houston, Scotty went to Houston. It seemed like Houston for the bigger drivers ended up going to Houston. They skipped Valero, then went to the Masters, where other guys just kind of piled up. Like Valero, I think, was one of the weaker tournaments of the year last year.
Yeah, and you got to think Burns tees it up at the Valero. At Innisbrook again, don't you?
I would think so. Yeah, I mean I can't remember if he played it last year or not. Though was the thing.
I think he did because I think I remember him being chalk in DFS
and not doing well for once there.
Yeah.
Let's see. I can effort this for you right now. Let's see here. Go to Rabbit Hole and go to Valspar. Yeah, he did play last year. He's played Valspar. The only year he skipped was 2020 because obviously they did not have the tournament that year.
He played the Valero as well. He missed the cut in both, so it won't help you if he does that again. But he did play 2 of the 3.
Let's see who played last year because Victor won, JT, Bridgman, Colley, Horschel. So Horschel just played like every Florida event, and then he got hurt. I happen to think that Glover is a really good pick this year because he's in these signature events, but he's just going to show up and play all these. He loves money. It'd be like if Kuchar was in the signature event. Just take him.
Well, and like Glover, he's still a competitive guy. He wants chances to win, and I think he realizes like his chance to win an elevated event is just a lot lower than his chance to go win the Valspar or something similar.
So let's try to figure out who went to Valero. So Burns played it for the first time. Burns usually plays Colonial as well, which is nice. Yeah. That'll be in section 3. So that's Innisbrook. Let's go to TPC San Antonio. This is a Corey Connors event, if there ever was one. He's won here twice. So obviously he's going to play. Spawn has won here before, so maybe he makes his return here as one of the higher-end guys. Harman won, so he'll probably be back. Where do you draft McNeely this year? Because he's not in. I don't believe that he ended up making the signature events. Did he?
I don't think so. We should double check that though.
I know it's so hard to keep all in your head.
Yeah, you need to have a list somewhere, or you need to know the link to go to check it out. But yeah, let's see. So FedEx Cup's ranking, I guess.
Well, the PGA Tour site doesn't make it very easy to figure out.
They do not.
Who is in the PGA signature events 2026? Let's see here. Is there an easy one? Signature event overview. Okay, that sounds pretty good. All qualifier. Okay, here we go. Here's the page that we need to find. Qualifiers for all the 2026 events. So let's see. Mav is in. He is in all the signature events. And he's in everything besides the PGA Championship, which he will probably get into anyway.
Yeah.
Oh, I gotta X that out so the PGA doesn't ding me for copyright infringement. But if we take a look at San Antonio from last year, so Harman, Gerard, both signature event guys. So is McNeely. So is Novak. So is Bud Cauley. Those guys probably end up coming back. Spieth played because it's a Texas event. This is the one that he tends to play. Keith Mitchell, Valimaki, who's in the first two. Connors, Denny McCarthy ended up playing. Cam Young I don't even remember Cam Young ended up playing in this event. I just remember I had Tom Hoagie to win. I think he was in that final group with the rest of these losers and ended up shooting 76 on the final day. Thanks for nothing, Tom. What happened to Tom Hoagie, by the way?
Yeah, I have no idea. He's totally broken. But so Cam Young is kind of a really interesting discussion point here because it's a good reminder of a lot of the time guys play events they otherwise wouldn't when they're searching and when they're saying like, okay, I've got these really important events coming up. My game's in shambles. I need to add an event so that I can find something and try and get into a rhythm, trying to refine my game. And if all you're doing is looking at last year's schedule and saying, okay, he played last year, so he's going to play again this year, I think you are setting yourself up to be disappointed with some decisions that guys make because Cam Young ended up playing really, really well. So, I think there's a decent chance that there are events he played last year that he might not play this year because he doesn't feel like he needs to go find something he's already found.
It's true, but how would you try to predict that out then? Like, would it be like Corey Connors, for example? I don't know if he's going to be searching or not, but he tends to play like if they've played it each of the past 3 years with status, then you can expect them to probably go back.
Yeah, or by doing things like I thought your point was really good with going through the Canadian Open a few moments ago when you said this guy's sponsored by RBC, so he'll be there. Like there are high confidence bets that we can make in terms of who's going to play what tournament, and then there are low confidence. So basically all I'm saying is number one, you should do more than he played last year, so he'll play again this year. You should look at like, has this been a consistent decision that he's made, or how was he playing in that time? Because if the guy was already playing pretty well, then and he didn't need to add something, and honestly, like maybe that data exists somewhere too. I don't know, but maybe you can figure out when the guy committed, and if he committed the week of, it's probably less likely that he's going to play than if he committed 2 months prior.
Jack Humphreys has most of this information. He's running a Patreon this year that has all of the schedule updates. So it's a season-long planner, both for best ball drafts and one and dones. If you want to map out what you want to do, highly recommend that you go check that out. I think having Sam Burns at number 2 makes the most sense.
Yeah. How many of those hinge events did we just say that he's probably going to play? So yeah, it definitely makes sense to have him up there.
I mean, if he just wanted to show up to the CJ Cup, that would be great.
He was
he played the CJ Cup last year too.
Yeah. He was Sam Burns was 4th in total birdies last year through the Open Championship. Harry Hall was 1st, and Siwoo, Ben Griffin, Sam Burns. So absolutely makes sense that high.
If anyone watched last Monday's show with Sky, I bumped down Siwoo because there is still the lingering possibility that he goes to LIV, and it kind of worried me. I'm becoming less concerned about that too. If I knew for sure that he was playing on the PGA Tour, I'd probably have him at number 4.
Yeah, I think you and I seem to agree that the answer that makes the most sense is that he was very interested in going, but he probably wanted to go if he could make his own team and not be the only guy to go. And it doesn't seem like Sungjae or Ben-An are considering it anywhere nearly as strongly as he was or is.
So let's go back and talk about Robert McIntyre for a second. Now that we know that he's playing American Express, Billy Horschel also a commitment to that tournament. How far up should I move him now? Like, I think this leaps him over the Kirks and the Nikos and the Hidekis even, although Hideki might play CJ Cup. Not sure. Probably over. I mean, does it put him over someone like Herman? Do you think?
Yeah, that was kind of my grouping there. Poston, Harman, Matsuyama, and I will personally throw Michael Brennan in there because I might take Brennan over this grouping as well. But that seems to be like upper teens is now, I think, the right spot for Bobby.
So I'll probably put him right here. I'll probably put him at number 17 behind Harman because I think Harman will play a lot of the events Bobby Mack does anyway. The only thing is that depending on what you're looking for, I think that Harman gives you a better chance to escape rounds 1 and 2, where Bobby Mack might be needed in round 4.
Yeah, absolutely. That's true. So again, like you can have them ranked right next to each other, and depending on who you're targeting in the couple rounds after and who you've taken in the round or 2 beforehand, you might have a very like clear, correct choice between Harman or McIntyre when you actually get there, even if you think they should be pretty much identically ranked.
So let's take a look back at just to see where these guys are going. So Robert McIntyre is going 20th overall. Harman is going 40th. So that's not even really, that's the thing. That's not actually a decision you need to make. Just take Bobby first, even if Harman is ranked higher, because you're going to get Harman 3 rounds later.
Yep, absolutely.
But again, I'm trying to like, how do I update my rankings to reflect that? That is again, because I don't want to just print out an ADP list and be like, all right, take these guys.
So I think the easiest way to do that is to make the rankings first the way you have them, which is just like your pure rankings. And then you move guys ahead of other players who you have to take beforehand in order to take them. But you only have to move guys up who you actually want to take when they're being taken. So like if you had to, let's say you think that Rory is 27th as you have him, but you would never, ever, ever take him at 12. You don't really need to move him up because there's no scenario where you're going to take him. Whereas if you think that Rory's at 27, but you really actually like him at 12, now you have to move him up to 11 or 10, wherever, where you're going to have the opportunity to actually draft him. And so the other thing you can do there is like, let's say that Rory, you don't want at 12, you don't want him at 13, but if he falls to 14 or 15, you'll take him. Okay, make him 14th or 15th in your rankings, and then just let everyone adjust accordingly. So that's the kind of thing I would do. And then the Harman types will naturally get bumped down with this strategy, but he's not going to get bumped so far that you're not like still taking him every single time he's a good value for you at 25th or 26th, something like that. So I think that's the way to do it.
Yeah, there has to be some fusion of ADP and rankings. And the easiest way to do it is just understand the ADP, which you can do on the Underdog. I think you can do it on the app as well. I tend to do it from desktop when I look at it. Just underneath rankings, click on PGA, and it will show you for the contest what the ADP is right now. And even doing some of the $3 drafts just to get a sense of where people are going and when you need to jump in on a certain player. The last thing I want to talk to you about are like, who are some good fades? Like just guys, Sky said he didn't want to take any Victor. I kind of agree with him on that. But out of these guys at the top, like I'm not taking Ben Griffin. I might end up with no Ben Griffin if he goes second.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Honestly, I don't have like a specific name off the top of my head. I think it's more a type of player that I'm fading, where I do still think there's value once you have an understanding of who's playing when and how to balance your lineup that way, so you have a good chance of getting through and a good chance of winning late. I think then there's still value in predicting, okay, who could end up playing a lot better this year than they have last year or in any previous year of their career, and taking chances on guys that way. And so the inverse of that is who might have just had their best year ever, which Ben Griffin obviously fits that list. Or
JJ Spawn.
Yeah, JJ Spawn fits that list. So that's the kind of
I hate to say it because I'm talking to him in like 2 days. Michael Kim kind of fits that list.
But so there's a difference with Michael Kim though, which is I think you've mentioned before that like Michael Kim has already committed to a bunch of events early.
He's playing them all. He's going to play 6 out of the 7, maybe 7 of the 7 first round events.
So like to me, he's not overvalued, where someone might be overvalued if in the past they have played a ton, but now they have much better status than they've ever had before. Now they're already exempt into all the signature events. And so people might be drafting them assuming they're going to still play a super heavy schedule, and they might not get that super heavy schedule from him. So that to me is the type of player to be wary of and potentially fade.
So one thing maybe I'll do with my rankings, I tried to do this and try to like group players together. And that's what I did with this area right here of like Tommy, Ludwig, Rory, and Fitzpatrick. And the more I think about it, I'd probably bump Ludwig down to the bottom of that. But I think that Fitz is about the same as all of these guys. Because I mean, as has been pointed out when you just watched him for the final 4 months of the year. He was like the best player in the world. And maybe that doesn't end up translating through. However, when you take a look at where he's being drafted, you got Rory at 12, Tommy at 12 in terms of ADP, and then Fitz is coming in at 50. Like he's on this, like he's about equivalent value. He's going to play most of the same events as all of these guys, yet he's going 7 rounds later.
Yeah, agree. You know what you could do, Pat? Similar to how in NFL you have like
positions.
You might have your top 10, but then there's RB1, RB2, RB3, wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3.
That's good.
You could denote like
good player 1.
Yeah.
Well, because we talked about the 2 tours, right? That there's going to be the crappy tour and the good tour. And you're going to need to find the perfect fusion of both in order to make this work for your team. Like that's why I wanted, like, maybe we can't do it just talking it through right now. Although I would like to try to figure out a blueprint of like, what does your team have to look like at the end to make it worthwhile? Like if I pass on Rory in the second, let's say, because he's going at pick 12, if I pass on Tommy and Rory, then I feel like I need to get Fitz somewhere. Like I'll have to jump on Fitz and Bobby Mack earlier than I want potentially, because I need that level of player. And I'm going to move Robert McIntyre, as I mentioned, up anyway. But that level of player, like I need those signature event guys. I need the Scottish Open guys. I need the Canadian Open guys. And they all kind of fit that same bucket.
Yeah. And so like I'm just making up a number here, but Tommy's 25th in your ranks. He might be the 7th ranked guy with signature event exemptions already. So
but I think that the hard part then becomes, how do you distinguish between like their signature event guys who are good that you would want, especially for round, like I'm thinking about round 4 again, where it's 2 majors, you know, the hardest major, who knows what's going to happen at Birkdale this time around, the Canadian Open, a signature event, like all of these like big time events that you want to have guys that are good in those tournaments. That I think JT Poston helps you much better the first 2 rounds than someone like Tommy would, but you're going to want to have Tommy by the end. Like they're both signature event players. They're both major players, but they fill different needs. I have no idea how to articulate.
Yeah, that's a good point. You could almost like designate every player. You could do something like in parentheses next to each player, you can like list, he's a round 1 specialist and a round 3 specialist or something like that. And he's going to be round 2 and round 4.
That's a really good idea. Like here's where these guys are more valuable to you. And if you can try to balance everything, it's not just about the starts, it's the impact that they're going to have. Like JT Poston, when he shows up to the John Deere, if he does, he's going to be like 20-1 to win. And we talked about that before. Like when you get him into these events where he's not in a signature event, he's going to be one of the top 15 guys on the board, which is very helpful for your win equity and getting through the cut line, everything like that in those events where scoring can pile up. Yep. Whereas, again, I hate to pick on poor Max McGreevy. He played himself into signature events. But, again, I just don't see myself where he's going having any of them.
Yeah, and he's almost the anti-Michael Brennan in the sense that, like, his skill sets, he performed really well. He got himself into these events by playing well in the areas of golf that are least likely to continue to be good. So yeah, it's a pretty high probability stance to bet against McGreevy repeating success, at least in the way that he had it last year. Maybe he becomes a much better driver. Maybe he adds 4 miles per hour ball speed in the off season, which honestly, like that's another thing. I wish that we could almost like see guys play for a couple weeks before we have to draft, because the number one thing that I'd be looking for is what's the difference in ball speed this year compared to last year? And I would just draft all the guys who are up 3 miles per hour or above.
Well, you can kind of you will be able to research that very easily on the rabbit hole. So if you go to the rabbit hole and we click off Burns for a second here, go to the view and you go to, miscellaneous metrics. So under miscellaneous metrics on the rabbit hole, you're going to find club head speed and ball speed. And the way that you could potentially do this is the issue is that the tournaments that we've seen most recently don't have a lot of shot length data. So you're not, and most of the good players didn't play. So you're not going to get a very good sample of that. But let's say past 18 months, I'll try to build this out in real time here, see if it works for us. And we click on club head speed and we go last 18 Why is that not coming up?
I think you should also switch results as from rank to average.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good call. See, this is why I talk it through with someone. So sort by ball speed past 18 months. I have way too many tabs open. Oh, Christo Lamprecht, Bryson, all the guys you'd expect. So let's put in last 18 ball speed, BS. Although that's going to get very confusing for my computer's struggling here to catch up with everything.
Yeah.
So we'll add that in. And then we'll go switch to last 4 months and have that update.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll put it in again. Ball speed, Ball speed, last 4 months, ball speed. And add that. So then we can go to, where's my model at here? There's a spider in front of my screen pulling down at this moment. It's freaking me out. Where are we going to go here? My saved models. I want to go to, now I'm trying to find everything. Create model. All right, everything's in here. And I'll share this tab. Get rid of everything besides the 2 ball speeds. And I just want to see them next to each other is all I really want. And I'll just go 50-50. Call that one 50. Call this one 50. And we'll generate just to see. Model name is required. Ball speed differential. And save and generate. And let's see. And can we go to, so let's try to go down to ball speed recently. All right, so Potgieter, is anyone made a big jump? Gary Woodland made a huge jump, and that kind of coincides with him getting way healthier, doesn't it?
Yes. I think you might have to scroll down or something because at least what I still see is just the weights.
Oh, yeah, because I have to share this tab instead.
Beautiful.
Because I'm an absolute goober.
Yeah,
totally
Gary,
forgot about this stuff.
Gary was hurt, and he even mentioned it throughout the season. He was like, yeah, I've got my speed back, and now I feel great. So definitely makes sense to see him there.
So let's see. I'll shrink that down so people can see what I'm up to here and move it over with all the names. This is where having your producer on vacation is tougher. So big jumpers. Kitayama goes from 72nd to 14th. Dunlap, 99th to 15th. Higo, 60th. It's funny that this almost coincides with them becoming better players.
I'm telling you, man, ball speed is as like predictive as anything. And really importantly on that note, like, I think when we talk about ball speed and we talk about distance off the tee, the automatic assumption is just it's that important to be closer to the green, which it is, but it's also how ball speed translates into all other aspects of golf. You can spin the ball more. You can launch your irons higher when you have more speed. Your club gets through the rough easier, which not just means you can advance the ball further when you're in thick rough, but it also means you have more control over whether you get a flyer or not. Like, there are just so many ways in which having ball speed translates into more success. So it's really not surprising to see, increased ball speed lead to this much improvement just overall in quality of golf played.
It's worth noting that this is a far more helpful exercise like 3 months into the year.
Yeah.
Because, Scotty's not going to be on here. Bryson's not going to be on here because they didn't play any of the stupid swing season events where they actually had data. But just taking a quick look at this, you see like Thorbjornsen makes a big jump from 75 to 25. Homa, 148 to 31st.
Mm-hmm.
Ben Griffin, 187 to 31st.
So the Homa one is extremely interesting because it also there's Scotty.
Yeah, because he played the one event. He played Napa.
Yeah. The other kind of signal that ball speed captures is quality of contact. Max Homa was probably as low as he was in ball speed because he couldn't find the center of the face. And that's part of why he was struggling so much like throughout the bag. His swing was off. He wasn't hitting the center of the club face often. And as he, started to play a little bit better, he started finding the center of the club face more. And obviously when you're doing that, your ball speed is going to go up, even if you didn't, improve your club head speed at all. So yeah, there's a lot of signal here with ball speed.
Yeah, well, there's more extreme examples here too. Like even guys that aren't good, like they're still showing like in the red of like not super high. Like Lauer goes from 450th to 175th.
Yeah.
Manacero, who had a pretty decent year. Damon kind of did.
I think part of this is that you had more players in the 18-month sample than you do in the 4-month sample.
Correct.
So which is why I don't know if you're able to switch it to the actual ball speed number instead
I
of
don't
the
think that
rank.
I can in here.
Okay.
Is the thing.
Yeah. If you could, I think it would be more helpful, but obviously like you can't jump from, 140th to 30th purely because the sample shrunk. It's obviously there's some signal there.
Yeah, you went up. You know what? I'm gonna talk to Ron and get the averages to be able to be listed in here as well, because I think you're right, that would be very helpful. I'm just looking for someone who like pops up green from way down in this part of the list. Like even like Chandler Phillips increased huge, like 250 points. This is a big one. Chad Ramey goes from 387 to 93rd. Norlander goes way up. Hoagie actually went up towards the end of the year because he started playing better. Kirk did the exact same thing. So did Tom Kim. Hisatune did that. Morikawa did that. Morikawa is a really interesting one with these drafts. And you saw even like Mac Meisner, who had a pretty crappy year last year until we got to the swing and he started playing way better. And he went from 355th to 115th.
Yeah. I'm actually a little bit surprised to see Tom Kim as far down as he is, because I think like if you ask most people what happened to Tom Kim with his game, I think most people would say like, oh, he started chasing distance and that really kind of threw everything off for him. His ball speed really hasn't changed much. So either he chased distance and was horribly ineffective at doing so, or something else is going on. And I think it's probably more likely just golf is hard and he was like unsustainably successful early on because he was playing the best golf of his life by far, and he was always going to regress at least a little bit. And obviously he still is super talented and still has a chance to, refine that kind of form. But I don't think we should be as surprised as we are that his game has, fallen to where it has.
Well, the other part of this too, just trying to take the comparison that we took, is that a lot of the tournaments that these guys have played where maybe ball speed is measured, like I don't know if it was in Cabo or not. If it was, I mean, guys are just swinging as hard as they can at the ball at the same time because you can't miss.
Yeah, very true.
So there is context to it, but eventually you have to get over that and be like, you either know what you're looking at or you don't know what you're looking at. And I think that it's helpful that we're here to provide context for it, but just looking sometimes at the raw data doesn't necessarily tell you what you need to know.
Yeah. And again, like that's why it'd be really helpful if we did have the actual ball speed number. And if we also had the sample size there, so we could see like, his ball speed improved by 3 miles per hour and it did so on 62 drives or something like that. Right. So I think that sort of thing would be super helpful if possible. And I know you're the guy to get it done for us if there's anyone who's going to.
Yeah, I'll make sure that we get on that right away. And we'll see if it's possible first, because some of these like filters just aren't possible. But trying to find out who the higher end guys are, like, yeah, Kitayama jumps back up. I mean, this is 8 rounds. Like, is eight rounds would be enough to tell this, though, wouldn't it?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, because remember, like the sample size here isn't 8 rounds. It's 8 times 14 drives. So you're getting quite a large sample there based on just the number of tee shots hit.
Okay, so taking a look at Dunlap, for example, none of his Cabo stuff went into it. Like his club head speed, his ball speed, only his PM, AM scoring averages.
Yeah.
But for Utah and Sanderson Farms, it did. And because you can see that there, there's 4 rounds missing from these actual stats. Only 6 of the rounds were weighted, but he still got back up to like 182. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah. I mean, he's
is he back?
So speed, I don't think was ever his issue. It's just, can he control the ball? So it's really interesting. Like, I think what we see from this data, this is a really cool look, by the way. So shout out to Ron for creating this. Look how much lower his apex height and launch angle is than basically everybody else. And then look at how high his spin rate is compared to a lot of those other guys, where it either he still has no control over what's happening, or he and his coach have decided, okay, when we hit the ball up high into the air, we struggle to control it. So let's try to keep it as low to the ground as possible with more spin so that it's going to hold its line more when we get into crosswinds and things of that nature. So this could be a really encouraging sign if we, if this coincided with an increase in accuracy and a clear change versus what he was doing when he had the yips, if you will, with the driver? Or is this just what it's always been and he really hasn't been able to figure anything out? So as always, data needs context, but whenever you see outlier data like that, it's just interesting and it can help you answer questions like this.
Yeah, and you're the perfect guy to talk to about this because I assume that when you went through swing changes and tried to control the ball and flight it differently, that these were the things that you were thinking about. But you can see that his ball speed has gone up 3 miles per hour from all of his rounds ever. From his past 100 rounds, it's up 3 miles per hour as well.
Yeah, so it almost seemed, and actually, like, look at the driving accuracy too. Now, part of that driving accuracy
can be course dependent.
Yes, very course dependent. But and actually, you can look at the strokes gained off the tee and see he's still at negative 0.9 in that sample, which is better than it had been.
But it's better than -2.
Yeah. But so like, it almost seems to me like what he and his coach have decided is, look, we're not ever going to be an accurate driver. Let's see if we can be long. And then maybe we're just going to be specialized where we can go win in Mexico. We can go win when, at Torrey Pines or something. We can go win when driving accuracy doesn't matter a ton, which, like, look, that's how Knapp has won. That's how Podgator has contended. So, like, it's not like that there isn't a recipe for success there. It's just kind of knowing who you are as a player and chasing that. And if he can find an identity in that way, great. I do think that'll really help him, even if he doesn't ever become an accurate driver. And
we've seen, like, he still pops, even when he was playing terrible, like, just out of nowhere. T11 at the John Deere. Is he a player you would take in this draft, just banking on, hey, this guy won twice in his first year on tour, had a really crappy second year. Maybe he just bounces back.
So he's like on the worst end of the type of player that I want to target, where I think a better example is like a Sahith Theegala, where we have already seen that he can sustain a level of success as like maybe a top 20 player in the world, which he did 2 years ago, but then he was awful last year. I don't think any of us should be shocked if he plays a lot more in 2025 or 2026 the way he did 2 years ago instead of last year. So he's the type of player that I really like, because also we know he's going to have to play a lot early. And if he gets back to that form, well, guess what? By April and May, he's now exempt again into all the signature events, maybe even earlier than that if he gets a win early. So he's the type of player that I'm targeting a lot, because it's also like very easy to draft him.
And you can see where like his game went to crap, that he stopped being able to drive the ball. His irons became mid, like as average as you can. His ball striking dipped because of that. But now this is against lesser competition at easier courses during the swing season, but he did start to get it back. I would argue that Max Homa is kind of in the same boat. When you take a look at him, like the trend lines for him is like his irons are back. Like he's hitting his irons well again. He's not driving the ball as badly as he was for a while. Like his accuracy has improved a little bit. The putting has started to come back, but it's mainly the iron play. It's like, oh, he's just back to being a good iron player again. He lost it for a bit. Now he's got it.
Yeah, I mean, and like with Homa, you can so clearly see here that he had like a 50-round stretch from the last 100 rounds to last 50, where his ball striking was just gone, like totally gone. And now we have a pretty clear trend again of, all right, he's finding it. He's maybe not as dominant as he once was with the ball striking, but he's finding it. And the putter still gets hot. So I think Homa's a great call. Homa and Theegala are probably going to be two of my highest owned players.
So here becomes the issue. Homa's going at pick number 54. Like, that's not bad. One player that hasn't been brought up at all is Thomas Dietrich, who's in all of these things, yet kind of sucks.
Yeah.
So Homa's 55, let's say. Theegala is, he's not even being drafted in some spots.
Yeah. Which again, I think I mentioned earlier, like Nick Taylor was my highest owned player last year. Why? Because I was able to get him like every single draft. He was free at the end. So Theegala is going to be that for me this year.
Yeah, so Theegala, I think that Horschel kind of fits that bucket despite going a little bit higher. Although now the more that I think about it, when we talk about this Canada stuff, Lowry is going super late. He kind of fits that mold of, Rory, McIntyre, like all these Euro guys. Like you might not get the early stuff out of him, but he could be a round 4 specialist.
He definitely could. Yeah, I agree completely. He's one that like, if you don't have any of Rory, Bobby, Burns, now Lowry becomes a really good play late. If you have a collection of Rory, Bobby, Burns. And now you don't need to take Shane Lowry. Now take somebody who's going to play a ton early instead.
So let's see where Shane Lowry has played the past few years and try to figure that out. Shane Lowry, let's click onto him. Oh, there's old Shane. Let's see. Where was he playing at the end of last year? So he played all the FedEx Cup events. He ended up playing the Wyndham Championship. Not that we care about that.
Yeah.
But let's see. No, that was 2 years ago we did that. Let's see. Pebble was Farmers, Pebble. Does he generally play Farmers? I think he does. Yeah, he does. He generally comes. He's played Farmers each of the past 2 years. That's his first event coming over, which it probably will be again as he gets ready for everything.
I would assume so.
He played Canada. Yeah, he's not picking up any of these other tournaments, and he skipped Scotland last year. So maybe there's a reason he's going where he is.
Yeah.
Like the only one he shows up to, like he shows up to the COG. But again, I don't know how much stock we can put into people playing the former Honda Classic, now the Cognizant, which again, I think is that and Sony are the two hinges of everything of the first round. Because there is no break between signature events in Florida now, that this inevitably becomes the break. Like, do you think that we see Michael Kim, Jake Knapp we'll see, but Spawn, Griffin, Henley, Michael Kim, like they have no reason to play this event anymore.
Right. So I think like that's just the kind of thing that we need to keep in mind about a lot of these players is, has their exemptions changed? Has their status changed where it makes sense for them to play a different schedule than it has in the past? Also, the actual schedule change of the PGA Tour will affect some things in that regard. In terms of the Scottish, I think another thing to look out for is whether or not a guy is going to play the Scottish is largely dependent on how he wants to prep for the Open Championship. So someone who just played well in the Open last year is more likely to stick to the schedule they just used than someone who went and missed the cut of the Open Championship and maybe they left the Open saying, you know what, next year I need to come over a week early to kind of get acclimated a little bit, and they're going to be more likely to play the Scottish this year. So just something else to think about.
We can take a look at this. We could take a look at this two ways. We could see last year. So you have like Goddard and Penge and Rory. Most of the Euro guys, apparently outside of Shane Lowry, end up playing this event.
Yeah, it's shocking that Shane hasn't.
And I would expect to see like Wrighton, Penge, and those guys in Canada this year as well. Like the Canadian Open has become like an official DP World Tour event on the PGA Tour.
It has, yeah.
So you have most of the guys that end up playing this, but I think the easier way to do this would be take a look at the past 3 years of the Scottish Open, and then sort by Scottish Open. What's the stupid course? The Renaissance Club?
Yeah.
How do you spell that? Nope. And there we go. Renaissance Club. And just apply that filter. Oh, application error. Look at that. I finally broken the system. We're doing good here.
You're trying to get too granular.
It's because I had Grant Thornton activated, not all active golfers. So like, no one who played in that is playing in this. Why would they? See, Renaissance Club and apply it. Let's see. Okay, so now we can see the most rounds at the Renaissance Club because I have last 6 months selected. Let's move that to past 3 years. And now we can sort down to find the guys that play it every year. Rory, Bobby Mack, Nikolai, Tom Kim, Wyndham. So Wyndham Clark ends up becoming very interesting here as well because he does not have signature event status, which means that he might have to go play all these stupid events and play himself. Like if you believe that Wyndham Clark can get himself back in to these tournaments, like through like good play, all of a sudden he'll play Amex. He might go play Cognizant. And he'll probably get the special exemption into Pebble because he's a former winner in the past 2 years. I would expect him to be in that. Obviously, he's in the majors because he won the U.S. Open. That he might be a nice little pick here at like pick 45.
Yeah, I also think there's probably something to be said about like all of the TGL guys might have priority for special exemptions just because they are kind of doing a favor to the tour in signing up for TGL to begin with.
So if we can correlate this, signature event, Scottish Open, Canadian Open, if we're really trying to target round 4 players. So Connors, I can't remember if Tommy plays Canada or not. I don't think that I think he does sometimes. Ludwig does sometimes. Xander doesn't. Wyndham Clark probably won't, but Bobby Mack and Rory will. The Højgaards probably will. Nick Taylor obviously is. Ryan Fox is definitely going to play. Thomas probably not. And are you drafting Thomas anywhere?
Not really. I think Tommy does, right? Because otherwise, how would Jeff have said hi to him?
Because I think he went that year that everyone played.
He played last year too.
He did? Okay, so he is a Canadian.
Oh, wait, I'm on 2024. Hold on, let me double check that.
No, he didn't play last year. He
No,
played
he did not.
2024,
You're right.
2023. So he could end up coming.
Yeah.
So he's a maybe, but probably not, especially now that he's like the top 3 player in the world.
Yeah, true.
Dietrich, like Adam Scott. Ludwig tends to play Canada. I don't believe that Fitzpatrick does. But I think that this is somewhat interesting if you're trying to prep for round 4.
Yeah, I agree completely.
Valimaki, they'll probably play both. Scotty played Canada that one year that Rory won at St. George's during the COVID year when they were all just playing. Burns generally plays it, so that's good news. Unless maybe he's played it every year and he missed the cut twice or something like that.
Yeah, it's possible.
All right, well, we're reaching out. I think the more he has played it, he's played the Canadian Open each of the past 3 years, so that's good because of the RBC stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then if we go to Scottish. He skipped 2024, but had played it 3 of the past 4 years. So I would expect him to go back to that. It's funny. Every time I talk to someone new about this, it's one of the most fun things I find about this tournament on Underdog is that no one really knows the perfect way to do this. And we can kind of spitball through. And every time I talk to someone else, like what I think changes as I think that the more information you get, it should work that way.
Yeah, absolutely. And it also does mean that, like, to Underdog's credit, this format does make us really think. And we obviously are trying to find the best way to approach it. There might not be a best way to approach it. The answer might just be you got to get a little bit lucky on picking the guys who end up playing events that you didn't know they were going to play. And obviously they have to go play well too.
Yeah, I think that's twofold though. I think that when you put that into practice, you need to put yourself in the best position to get lucky. And then the luck needs to break your way.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is true of DFS. It's true of betting. It's true of basically everything in life.
So Alex Blickle, you can check out all of his work at ftn.com. What do you guys got going over there for golf season?
Lots of stuff, and contest sims I think are going to be the big addition, and also lots of pick'em and props over in my own Discord. Outright bets will be there, all that good stuff, and hopefully it's a great finish to the NFL season as well.
Yeah, it'd be nice to build up some cash, build up a bankroll, and do all these drafts if that's the way that we're going to go with this. Hope everyone had a very happy holidays. Everyone was safe. Everyone got what they wanted. And let's try to win some money in this contest. You can use code Mayo and sign up at Underdog if you haven't yet. Get yourself up to $1,000 bonus, and you can draft teams with those bonus funds. So that makes it super easy. The one and done contest, fantasygolfchampionships.com. Hit the description. Get in an entry and screenshot it to me before New Year's Day, and you're into a draw for a free entry on top of that. And you can see it's filling pretty quickly at the time anyway. Fantasy National and BetSpertsGolf.com for the rabbit hole. I was using the rabbit hole today. You can see the power that it has. It also has DFS optimizer, projections, everything like that for each of the tournaments and each of the slates. And you'll get the dual membership. If you're already a member at Fantasy National, we're going to turn on the switch in the new year and you'll have access to both the sites. So do not worry about that. All right. Smash the like on the way out. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you next time.
Mayo experience! Experience!